most challenging event faced by many elderly people around the world may be World War II. World War II was a devastating disaster, where over 60 million lives were claimed, including 6 million Jews, who perished under the Nazi regime. As the events unfolded, millions of people worldwide served in the military or healthcare sectors, and even more were affected as civilians. Many who survived the war experienced serious traumatic events, such as battles, injuries, air raids, evacuations, hunger, and abuse. As a result of these horrific events, the negative impact of World War II trauma on mental and physical health is still felt, even decades after the war ended. During World War II, the U.S. Army determined that the peak for a frontline soldier was between 60 and 240 days, but it depended on the intensity and frequency of the battles. When someone is in a life-or-death situation, chemical reactions occur in the body that enhance awareness, eliminate pain, and prepare the body to either flee or confront an impending threat. Though fight-or-flight response is a common survival mechanism that typically provides humans with an adaptive advantage, it is a normal and healthy reaction. However, if this survival mechanism persists for an extended period, side effects such as trembling, dizziness, and hyperventilation may occur. The modern military refers to this condition as combat stress reaction, and it can be attributed to the emotional, mental, and physical demands of prolonged combat operations. This situation is not new among soldiers engaged in battle, but the field of military medicine is increasingly gaining a better understanding of what actually causes it. What was previously known in wars as shell shock is now referred to as combat fatigue. In the midst of World War II, as the number of American soldiers involved in combat increased, the number of psychological casualties continued to rise. During the Normandy campaign, military psychology experts noted that the combat effectiveness of troops significantly declined after 30 days of battle, and after being in the field for 45 days, the forces became almost vegetative. With the need to win the war, and facing a labor crisis, the military's primary focus is to return soldiers to duty as quickly as possible. This is done by evacuating soldiers experiencing psychological trauma to aid stations behind the front lines. There, the victims receive doses of sodium amytal to induce a 48-hour sleep. Afterward, they undergo a recovery process, including eating warm meals, taking showers, wearing clean uniforms, and receiving medical evaluations. The majority respond positively to this treatment, and 50 to 70% of combat fatigue cases can return to the field within 3 days. However, some soldiers experience more severe conditions. Those facing worrisome situations are sent to hospitals and do not return to the combat zone. Additionally, after World War II, the high number of veterans and prisoners of war returning home significantly affected the stability of the marriage relationship. The relationship between war and higher divorce rates became common, especially among World War II veterans, particularly former prisoners of war, as PTSD rates were much higher in this group. Those experiencing PTSD tend to face more marriage problems due to difficulties in adjusting to the home environment. Their relationships with their spouses are often disrupted due to a lack of communication or healthy emotional expression, intimacy issues, disruptions in daily life, economic difficulties, aggression, and the ongoing impact of mental health. Another interesting aspect to discuss regarding World War II victims is the hibakusha. Hibakusha is a Japanese term referring to individuals who survived or were directly affected by nuclear attacks, particularly the atomic bombings in Hiroshima and Nagasaki at the end of World War II. In the first few months after the bombings, around 90,000 to 166,000 people died in Hiroshima, while 60,000 to 80,000 others perished in Nagasaki. Damage to the human body from the heat rays, explosion, and radiation of atomic bombs is generally referred to as atomic bomb disease, which can be divided into two categories: acute damage and delayed effects. Acute damage involves symptoms such as burns from heat rays and fire, external injuries, fractures from the blast, as well as nausea, fatigue, and hair loss due to radiation. This damage develops within 4 months after the bombing. On the other hand, delayed effects involve diseases like keloids, cataracts, microcephaly, and leukemia, which develop more than 4 months after the bombing. In terms of long-term impact, leukemia becomes one of the most fatal for atomic bomb survivors. Cases of leukemia increased approximately 2 years after the bombing incident and peaked around 4 to 6 years later. Unfortunately, many victims in Hiroshima and Nagasaki died without receiving adequate care to alleviate their suffering. Even some who attempted to provide assistance after the bombings also succumbed to radiation.